You know the wizard. Add a user, pick a license, assign a role, click, click, click. Then do it 49 more times. Every new domain, every group, every team starts the same repetitive loop. Now imagine all of it, 50 users on board, licensed, grouped, and ready, happening while you grab coffee. By the end, you will have the exact scripts to make that your daily reality. We start by setting up a non-human identity, which is the foundation that makes everything else schedulable. First, you will automate your domain setup with New-MgDomain and Invoke-MgVerifyDomain. Next, we tackle the full user lifecycle, from creation with New-MgUser to restoration with Restore-MgUser. You then learn to manage admin roles using Get-MgDirectoryRole and New-MgDirectoryRoleMember by reference. After that, we automate group management with New-MgGroup and Set-UnifiedGroup, and finally convert a group into a Microsoft team with New-MgTeam. You walk away with a complete set of scripts you can run on any Microsoft 365 tenant. Before any of this can be automated, the tenant needs an identity that a script can sign in as. We build that in code, because a course about automation should not start by asking you to click through a portal. By the end of this section you will have an app registration, a service principal, and a connection that needs no human at all. We start by installing the Microsoft Graph PowerShell SDK. This is the single module that provides all the cmdlets our course needs, from managing domains to creating teams. We install it for the current user so we do not need local administrator rights. We connect interactively with two administrative scopes. Application.readWrite.all lets us register the new application. AppRoleAssignment.readWrite.all lets us grant admin consent to the permissions our automation will need. This is the only time a human must click a consent dialog. Now we look up the exact permissions our course cmdlets need. We get the Microsoft Graph Service Principal and filter its app roles by name. This is least privilege. We ask for domain.readWrite.all, user.readWrite.all, and others, but never the overly broad directory.readWrite.all. The only hard-coded GID is Microsoft Graph's own well-known application ID, which is stable and safe. We register an application named M365-tenant-admin-automation and immediately create its service principal. The application object defines what permissions we want, and the service principal is the local identity in our tenant that can actually use them. This separation is a core concept in Microsoft Entra. We create a client secret that our scripts will use to authenticate without a human present. The secret expires in 6 months, which is the maximum allowed by default. We print the client ID, tenant ID, and the secret itself. In production, you would use a certificate, which is more secure and can be managed by your PKI. Finally, we grant admin consent for every permission we requested. We loop through the resource access entries and create an app role assignment for each one. This step is what makes the permissions active. Without it, the service principal has no rights. We then disconnect the interactive session, because from now on, all connections will be unattended. The script runs and we see the Welcome to Microsoft Graph message from our initial interactive login. New-MG application returns a table with the display name, application ID, and object ID of our new app. We then see the client ID, tenant ID, and the generated secret. These three values are what every lab script will use to connect unattended. The application M365-tenant-admin-automation now exists in our tenant with exactly the 6 permissions our course requires. We start in the Admin Center under Settings, then Domains. The first thing to understand is that your contoso.onmicrosoft.com domain is a technical identifier, not a user-facing address. It cannot be removed, but it should never be the primary email. To bring in your own domain, we need to prove we own it. First, copy the unique text verification value Microsoft provides. Then, head to your DNS host and add that exact string as a text record. Once it propagates, come back here and click Verify. After verification succeeds, you can set northwind.com as the default, so new users like Megan Bowen are automatically created with the correct email. We connect to Microsoft Graph asking only for domain.readWrite all. This scope lets us add and verify a domain without granting broader directory write access. Always request the minimum permissions your task requires. We store our domain name in a variable, then call New-MgDomain with a hash table. The ID parameter is the domain itself. This registers northwind.com with Microsoft, but it remains unverified until we prove ownership. We fetch the verification records and filter for the text type. The command prints exactly what you need to paste into your DNS host. The value is a long string Microsoft will look for to confirm you control the domain. Once the text record is live, Invoke-MgVerifyDomain tells Microsoft to check for it. We then read back the domain object, selecting ID, is verified, and is default. This confirms the verification succeeded and the domain is ready to use. We run verifydomain.ps1. After connecting, the script outputs the DNS record we must add. The final table shows northwind.com with isVerified set to true, meaning Microsoft found our text record. IsDefault is false because we have not made it the primary domain yet. We begin the life cycle by creating the account. Next, we assign a license, and this is where you must choose a data location for compliance. You can also uncheck specific apps inside the plan, like Yammer or Sway, before saving. For identity, a critical rule: never use your custom domain for admin usernames. Always stick to the onmicrosoft.com address to keep your privileged account secure. Finally, when managing removal, remember that a mail contact is just an external address book entry. It has no license and cannot sign in. The key takeaway is that a user's journey is defined by the license, not just the account. We connect to Microsoft Graph with two scopes. User.readWrite all lets us create the account and assign a license. Organization read all lets us read the tenant's verified domains and usage location, which are required for licensing. We build a hash table for the new user, Isaiah Langer. Notice the user principal name uses the default .onmicrosoft.com domain, not a custom domain. This is a security best practice for admin accounts. We also set the usage location to US, which is mandatory before assigning a license. We splat the hash table into New-MgUser to create the account. Then we find the E5 license SKU and build a license object that disables the Viva Insight service plan. This is how you selectively turn off apps within a license. Finally, we assign it to the new user. We call Get-MgUser for the new user, requesting specific properties. We pipe the result to format dash table to show the display name, user principal name, and account status. This confirms the account is enabled and ready for sign-in. We run the script. After the welcome message, we see a table confirming Isaiah Langer's account. The user principal name uses the secure.onmicrosoft.com domain, and account enabled is true. The license assignment completed silently, so the user is fully provisioned and ready to use. We start with a security group, Sales Team Admins. Instead of giving permissions to individuals one by one, we assign the required roles directly to this group. Alex is a member, so she inherits the user administrator role. Diego gets Teams Administrator, and Megan gets SharePoint Administrator. Each role is scoped precisely to their job function. The key takeaway: never assign global admin for daily work. By using these specific, least privilege roles assigned to a group, you grant exactly the access needed, and you can modify these assignments anytime in the user's properties pane. Let's put this into practice. We connect to Microsoft Graph with two scopes. User read all lets us find the user, and role management.readWrite directory lets us assign the role. We avoid directory.readWrite all because we are not modifying the directory itself, only role membership. We store the target user's sign-in and the exact display name of the role in variables. The role name must match what Entra ID expects, like User Administrator, which lets Diego manage user accounts without being a global administrator. We fetch the user object and the directory role object using server-side filters. This is faster than pulling every user. If the role has never been activated in this tenant, Get-MgDirectoryRole returns nothing, and we would need to activate it first. We build a reference object containing the user's full API URL and pass it to New-MgDirectoryRoleMemberByRef. This commandlet adds a link between the role and the user, granting Diego the user administrator permissions without touching his user properties directly. Finally, we retrieve the members of the user administrator role and select the relevant columns. Seeing Diego in this list confirms the principle of least privilege is applied. He has the exact permissions his job requires, and nothing more. We run the script. After connecting, it prints the member list of the user administrator role. The output shows Diego Siciliani's user ID and principal name. This means the New-MgDirectoryRoleMemberByRef call succeeded and Diego now has the administrative permissions scoped exactly to user management. We have three group types, and the choice matters. First, admin role assignment. You can only assign roles on private groups where Create a Team is unchecked. That is a hard limit worth remembering. Next, discovery. Public groups let users join directly from Outlook without owner approval. The difference is control versus openness. Pick the type that matches the trust level of the work. We connect to Microsoft Graph using the group.readWrite all scope. This gives us exactly the permissions we need to create a new group and read it back, without granting broader directory write access that we do not require. We build a hash table of parameters for the new group. Setting mail enable to true and security enable to false, with the unified group type, creates a Microsoft 365 group. We make it private so only approved members can join, and we give it a mail nickname that will form its email address. We splat our parameters into New-MgGroup to create the group. The command returns the new group object, which we store in a variable. This object contains the auto-generated ID and the primary email address for the shared mailbox. Finally, we run Get-MgGroup using the ID from the object we just created. We select a few key properties to confirm on screen that the display name is correct, the visibility is private, and the group type is unified with its assigned email address. We run the script. After connecting, we see the confirmation table from Get-MgGroup. The output shows our new group named Project Falcon, its private visibility, the shared mailbox address at contoso.com, and the unified group type. This confirms our Microsoft 365 group is ready for collaboration with a shared inbox, calendar, and document library. We start by identifying the Microsoft 365 group we want to extend. Once you open its properties, you will see the Add Teams option right there in the Admin Center. Selecting it triggers a one-way conversion. This permanently layers voice, video, and app integration on top of the existing group membership and files. There is no undo button here. So when we convert a group like Project Falcon, we are giving it a shared workspace and chat that cannot be taken away. We connect using the Team Create scope. This is the least privileged permission that lets us convert an existing Microsoft 365 group into a team. Using a broader scope like group.readWriteAll would work, but it grants far more access than we need for this single task. We store the GID of the existing Microsoft 365 group in a variable. We also set the display name for the new team. This name can differ from the group's original name, but keeping them similar helps users understand they are connected. We use a hash table to splat the parameters for New-MgTeam. The group ID links the team to our existing group. We set the visibility to private, which means only group owners can add new members. This is a common choice for project teams where membership should be controlled. We splat our parameters into New-MgTeam to perform the conversion. This is a one-way process, so we immediately run Get-MgDomain to confirm the result. Reading back the object verifies the team exists and shows us its unique identifier and creation timestamp. We run the script. After connecting, we see the confirmation table from Get-MgDomain. The output shows our new team named Project Falcon Team with a new unique identifier, confirming the conversion from the Microsoft 365 group succeeded. The private visibility and creation date match the parameters we supplied. We covered automating 5 essential tenant administration areas, from adding a custom domain with New-MgDomain and Invoke-MgVerifyDomain, to converting a group into a Microsoft team with New-MgTeam. You also saw how to manage users, roles, and groups entirely through PowerShell. The single most useful thing to carry away is this: before you click, check if a commandlet exists. When it does, you save time every single time you run it.